Okay guys, so in this video, I'm just going to provide for you a really simple follow along hip mobility routine that you can use either separately to your training sessions in order to make sure that you're nice and mobile for your training sessions, or you can even use this or a reduced version at the start of your training session in order to target mobilizing your hips to free up movement so that you can do things like get into position in a deadlift, or squat down nice and deep, or a number of other things that require a decent or at least reasonable amount of mobility in your hips. Now, if you ever have a lack of mobility and it's preventing you from performing good technique or getting into position with some of these exercises, the common areas of issue usually I find are hips, spine, and ankles. So we're going to cover hips today. Now, what I'd like to stress is usually it is best to do this multiple times throughout the week. If you are somebody who has severe limitations, doing it once in a while probably won't do much. And when you do this, you need to make sure you're challenging the stretches progressively over time. Not only that, do you need to make sure that when you're actually training and you're freeing up new levels of movement in your exercises in the gym, are you utilizing the new levels of movement? So for example, your squat should be practiced slightly deeper and deeper as you free up movement as the weeks progress. So make sure that frequency is something that you're focusing on. Make sure you're adhering to a regular routine, and make sure you're progressing things as much as you can until you're out of the woods. So 2 sets of each exercise, usually about 8 reps for each exercise, although there'll be some static holds in here. I'll demonstrate as I go. Ideally, you need a mat. Ideally, you also need a foam roller. Okay, so what we're going to do is just lie down into position, lie on your back, knees bent, cross one foot over your knee, hand on your other knee, and you're going to push your knee away from you and challenge this range of motion more and more every time. So, as I said at the beginning, you're going to do about 8 reps. The tightness you'll feel should only be subtle. For some people, this will feel more intense than others. And we change sides. And 8 on the other side as well. I like to add a little pause in the extended position to really emphasize the fact that I should be pushing hard and progressing these and challenging these more over time. And what we're going to do is we're going to couple this up with a pigeon pose. And here, what you want to do is get into a high plank position. You're going to cross your knee up under your chest. You're going to lie back, keeping your chest square to the floor, and come down as low as you possibly can. This is one of the static stretches we'll do and should be held for about 30 seconds aside. I'm not saying that I'm the best at these. And after about 30 seconds, we're going to change sides, cross your knee up under you. It should be sitting under your chest. Chest stays square to the floor. Get nice and low. And once you're done, once 30 seconds is up, we'll move on. So next, what we're going to do is have your legs just wider than about shoulder width apart. Keep the bottom of your feet flat on the floor. What we're going to focus on is one leg at a time. Again, 8 reps. Where you're going to push one knee inside your hip, keeping your foot flat on the floor, and then come back. Add a little half-second pause in the deep position, and come back. Keep the movements nice and controlled. Try and challenge it more over time. And we want to, again, do about 8 of these. That's 4. It's really important that your foot remains flat on the floor to make sure the focus remains on the hips. And we'll do the other side. 3, 4, 6, 7, and 8. Now next, we will be doing the same thing, but both feet at the same time, and just moving the hips through what we call internal and external rotation with constant movement. We'll do 8 full rotations, so that's 3. And this one, you'll notice the feet are allowed to leave the floor. And just make sure it's smooth, controlled movements. Use the greatest range of motion you can, or whatever's comfortable for you. And that is 8 full rotations. After this, take a short break. We're doing those again. So just as a reminder, all of these should be done twice. Doing them all once will give you some positive benefit. Doing them twice will just give you a little bit more. Easy. Next, what we're going to do is you're going to sprawl your feet out underneath you like this. So now I'm having both of my knees pointing the same direction and both of my feet pointing in the same direction. I'm going to try and maintain a tall chest. And from here, what I'm going to do is cross my hand over my left foot here, left knee rather, and I'm going to twist myself round, imagining that my spine must stay completely vertical. 2. And we're going to do 8 of these. 3, 4, 8. And then next, we'll do the other side. That's 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now the next stretch that we'll couple that with is a static hold, where you're going to have the bottom of your feet planted against one another. You're going to sit with as much of an upright posture as you can, although that's person dependent, and you're going to try and push your knees towards the ground. And the challenge is further, you can also lean forward. Granted, I'm not the best at this one. Some people you'll find can lie all the way forward. But just try and create a stretch that you would describe as mild discomfort. You don't want to be in pain. Hold this for 30 seconds and relax. Those again, we're going to do twice. Now we're on to the last 2 movements. So get into a similar position as I did before, but this time I want a closed gap right here. Okay, and from here, have your hands crossed over. I'm going to do the Rasputin. And what we're going to do is essentially fold this leg so it puts pressure on this hip in order to bring us up into an elevated position. So I'm going to fold that leg here, push my hips through so I'm completely upright, and control on the way down. The control on the way down is really important. So we're going to come back up, push the hips through, control on the way down. Come back up, push the hips through, control on the way down. 4, 5, 6, 7, and last rep, 8. Do the other side. So try and adjust. So now your knees are facing the opposite side. So are your feet. And coming up, push the hip through. Oh, watch you don't lose your balance like me. Come up, push the hips through, control on the way down. Come up, push the hips through, control on the way down. 4. And repeat that until you get 8 reps. Now, the last exercise, we're going to couple that with, you're going to get your foam roller, you're going to put it between your knees, and essentially we're trying to roll it between our knees like this. Hold it between your knees so it doesn't fall. Knees at somewhat of a right angle, and just try and push your knee one at a time, a little bit closer to the opposite wall. Essentially, you should feel like you're grinding your hips. Roll it back and forward. This is a difficult one to get the hang of initially, but it feels really good. And once you're comfortable with what you're doing, you can speed it up. And there we go. So the purpose of this mobility routine is to release some pressure from the joint, to mobilize you. Now, this can be done, as I said at the start of the session, it will mobilize you for the session. If you were to do it frequently throughout the week, it would also give you a similar benefit. I think what I'll find is whatever you're more likely to stick to a consistent routine with is probably best. For some people, that's doing it separately to your session. Some people, that's doing it before your session. When you do it, it's probably not something you want to overthink. Do it frequently. And when you're in the gym, try and take note of the benefit as you go. Try and progress what you're doing. It's not just progressing the stretches, it's also progressing the range of motion we use in our exercises in order to make sure that the results stay somewhat permanent. I wanted to highlight that stretching will give you somewhat of a temporary benefit. We also need to strengthen our muscles in newly lengthened positions in order to make sure that the benefit of becoming more mobile stays somewhat permanent. So mobilizing is great. You've also got the challenge, it increased range of motion in the gym as well. So if anybody's got any questions about that, don't hesitate to get in touch, and hope this helps.